am Sharon Evans, and I'm from New Zealand, a little wee village called Arapuni. Not many people know about it. There's about 100 houses in Arapuni, and I've lived there for around 6 years now. So it's quite a rural area. We're surrounded by a lot of dairy farms, and there are some dry stock, what we call dry stock farms as well. Probably there's 4 towns that are about 30 minutes drive from me, but in the town I'm in, there's nothing commercial. There's no shops. There is a cafe, and that's all. So it's a neat spot. It suits me. And I work as a country real estate agent, and what I do is I sell any kind of property outside of town. So I sell farms, large and small, or what we call lifestyle blocks here as well. So where I'm living, it's really suited because I'm right in the middle of my patch, so to speak. What I enjoy doing for fun is getting outside and just spending time in nature, and that can take a whole lot of different forms for me. I love to go camping and do that as often as I can. So every week I'm in a tent, but the different ways that takes is I might be hiking or bikepacking or kayaking to where I go camping. And so I may just have a really small, whatever you fit in your backpack set up. And at other times I'm able to take the car. And so things are a bit more luxurious when I do that. So yeah, the 2 different ways. And I was raised up in a sort of just outside of town, in a rural area. So as kids, we were quite feral. We just had free range. We could just go out after breakfast. We didn't come home until after dark or when you're absolutely starving, and we could roam for miles. And we had the benefit of our parents were teachers, and so the long school holidays in New Zealand are at Christmas time. That's when we have our summer holidays, and we would typically go away for most of that summer holiday and would go to really, really remote places, remote beaches, and we would camp. It could be for a month to 6 weeks. We'd spend that whole time camping, just playing on the beach, just messing about. Later on, we would be going out. The parents had a yacht, so we'd go and spend time on a yacht. And that was all inland New Zealand. We didn't sail overseas, although my parents did later. But those holidays were coastal holidays and going out to the islands nearby. So always outdoor stuff, always been an outdoor person. When I first finished school, I spent quite a number of years backpacking in different countries, and I found at that time I'd have friends who would want to come along, but they would be committed to different jobs and responsibilities. This is before people had their own families, and it was a case of you go on your own or you don't go. At times I'd go with friends, but I tended to go for longer, and so I was always used to just winging it, never too organized, but I'd get a one-way ticket to some other country and just go and see what happened. And then in sort of from, that was up until my early 20s, and there was a number of decades where my focus was on raising a family and the career. While doing that, we were still camping as a family. My kids all camp, but it wasn't going on my own kind of thing anymore. And then more recently, it was just the desire, like what I do in my working day. I spend a lot of time with people, either face-to-face or in different meetings or on the phone. I'm an introvert. I get my energy from being right away from people. I just got to go and sit on a mountaintop for a while. And so that's where I get my energy from, is just going out somewhere and being away from other people. And to have the confidence to do that, I will never let fear rule my decisions. And it's a case of, if I come up with an idea, if I hear about something and it's like, oh, that's a bit scary, that usually means I need to go and do it and just face up to that fear. And I often get asked in comments on the social media, people will say, don't you get scared, or you're so brave. And yeah, I get scared at times, but the more times you just keep on going, keep out there, the more confidence you get. And it's everything I do, it's calculated as to what I do. I am careful, I take all the right precautions all the time, but it's just, you just have to keep going, keep trying to do things, and you just get the confidence as you go. Yeah, a couple of years ago, no, I hadn't been doing very much traveling or camping at that stage, and I was staying somewhere. I'd gone on a great big road trip of it was over summer, it was about 10 days, and it was quite a transformative road trip, because I just felt like I'd turned the clock back the 3 decades. It really, really did. And I ended up in a beautiful, beautiful place called Waikiri Moana, which is in the centre of the North Island of New Zealand, and it's exquisite, beautiful lake. And I was there a couple of days, and just looking out at the lake. I was on the lakefront watching a storm. It's a huge lake, watching a storm, the clouds rolling in, and it's such a beautiful place that I was almost, you get quite emotional because it is so beautiful. And the thought came to me then that there'll be other women who, for whatever reason and whatever age group, don't have the confidence to go out. And maybe they've never experienced camping at all. Maybe that wasn't in their childhood, or they've not had the resources to do it, but who want to. And that was the trigger behind me starting my Freewheeling Kiwi channel. Is I just wanted to demonstrate to women, to girls, to whoever, that if I can do it, they can do it as well. Because I think one of the barriers for people doing stuff, if they don't see someone like them doing it, whatever my demographic is, I am 55, 56 at the end of this month. So if someone's not seen someone of a similar age or whatever, then that doesn't give them the confidence. And that's my why. That's why my why for having the social media platforms. It's not about me. It's just demonstrating, so to give other people the confidence. And it's working, because I get direct messages from people saying, thank you so much, because of what you've done, we've now done this. And that just absolutely makes my day. That makes all the going out there and the filming and the because that all adds to what you're doing. It just makes it so worthwhile to do it. I do get comments like that. People say, no, it's not safe. And I always sort of try and turn it, because I try to keep community positive, but I try and turn it around to, we've got no dangerous animals in New Zealand. So I turn it around to animals rather than other sort of nonsense. Because I don't want to feed that hysteria that people can get into. And as for animals, New Zealand, before humans came, we've only been here a couple of 100 years. There was only birds, there were no animals. So everything here has been introduced. We've got no snakes or reptiles. All the wild animals used to be domesticated. So in the bush you might have deer or boars, pigs, but nothing's going to hurt you. It would have to trip over you to. That's not going to happen. Yeah, so it is paradise. Yeah. I want to be able to give other people the confidence to do this. That is absolutely what drives me. Like, I'm an introvert, I'm not someone who wants to be on social media and all the rest of it. And I mean, if you're a vlogger, but when you start doing it, you feel like a dork walking around with a camera, or you turn up in a camp and there's people over there, it's like, oh, God. But I won't let the fear of what other people think stop me doing that, because it's too important for me to give other people the confidence to do it. It's more important to me than worrying about, what someone over there might think. And they don't think, of course they don't. They're too busy with their own hassles. But that is what drives me to, because I know the benefits that I get from it, from being in nature, from just the refueling it does, and it's so good for stress, it's so good for mental health and physical health. You're using your brain for problem solving when you're doing these things. That is a benefit to other people to do that as well. And if I can encourage someone else to get out there and do it, and they get those benefits, that's only going to be good for them, and that's going to be good for whoever they're living with. And it's like you drop the pebble in the pond, and the circle goes out and out. So I'm just dropping a little pebble, but it flows. Someone tells one friend and they tell another friend. Yeah. I have had a daily meditation practice for probably 4 years now, and I feel so good to do that, whatever my environment, whether I'm at home working or I'm on a work trip, or if I'm in the bush, as we call it, in New Zealand. That always happens. And with that also, not quite daily, but I practice yoga as well, which is just a moving meditation. And I just draw strength from that does energize me. And it's the same as, that could be just sitting somewhere, just becoming completely present. If I am sitting, use the example of looking at a sunset, and you're just looking at this beautiful sunset going down behind the mountains or into the ocean, and just being completely present with that, and just putting aside the monkey mind, all the noise that's going on, and the to-do list or the emails. It's I think when you're traveling and camping and whatnot, it's not what you take with you, it's what you leave behind. And from going hiking or into the bush, however, going camping, you're limited by what you can take, for obvious reasons. And because I like to really get into what we call the backcountry in New Zealand, so off the beaten path, you have to be present with it. You've got to be thinking about your navigation. You've got to be thinking about where you're stepping most of the time, because the tracks are pretty rough. You're thinking about the weather, if you're going to get to where you thought you were going to camp in time, and that all just helps to make you completely present, and along with enjoying the beautiful scenery and what's around you, the birds, whatever's around you, and just getting so sort of in touch with the natures. And I don't mean I'm escaping to nature, because we are nature, we are all nature. It's just realizing that you are part of nature. And I find I connect in a more remote environment. I have that connection better in a more remote than suburban environment. That moment when you get to where you're going to, and you've got everything set up, you've got your camp set up for the night, and you've either had your food or your food is organized, there's no urgency, then just to be able to sit with a cup of tea, I'm a tea drinker, and just having that cup of tea and just sitting and just being would have to be my favorite part, because sometimes I'm a pretty busy person all of the time, and we tend to be human doings instead of human beings. And when there's nothing to do, it forces me to stop and just be, and just look and take notice of what's around. And I'm trying more to be just to spend the time to learning what the name of the bushes are, the bigger main bushes around me, and learning what the birds are. There's not as many birds in the bush since humans have been in New Zealand, because they brought, you know, the rats and stoats and things that eat our birds, but just, yeah, those birds that are there, just being able to identify them and just being so absolutely present in that moment while enjoying a hot cup of tea. That would have to be, it's very simple. Yeah. I don't think I've got any more challenges than males who are going out camping or adventuring. Our challenge I have, which could be with male or female, is I'm not very big, and so it's just carrying the weight of what I'm taking, and then you know that is simply a strength thing. I think I actually have an advantage over males, because when you're a female traveler on your own, you're not so threatening to other people, and so if you do meet other campers or people hiking, whatever they're doing, they're more willing to stop and have a conversation with you, because you know, the male ego doesn't get in the way of the whole thing. Summer is my favorite season. I really, really feel the cold, so I find going out in winter to be really, really difficult. That would have to be a fear of mine, is getting cold. And I love the heat. I do not feel the heat at all. Yeah. This is hard because I'm not a foodie. I'm making a lot more effort with my videos to do food stuff, but realistically, I'd be just quite happy to have the same thing every single night. I follow a paleo diet, not sort of an 80-20 paleo diet, and so that means I don't eat dairy products or grains or sugar or alcohol. And when I'm going out on multi-day hikes, that can get really difficult, because the dehydrated food, a lot of the commercial dehydrated food, is not suited to the paleo diet. I've yet to come across a really good supplier, and tomorrow I should receive my dehydrator. It's coming on the courier, and I'm going to start making my own food. I have been, if I'm only going out for a night or a few nights, I have been taking fresh food, but the weight of that, it's not practical, and it gets squashed and all the rest of it. So yeah. If I stick to the paleo diet, I don't get inflammation in my joints. The tracks have pretty good markings on them. Sometimes, actually, a couple of weekends ago, because we've had a cyclone here, and a lot of the forest is damaged from the cyclone, and I was walking alongside a small river, and because of the damage, had to go off track and sort of go up just a hill, not a mountain. You know, it's just a wee diversion, but that was completely off track. And just trying to figure out how to, you always see the river down there, so I always knew where I was, but it was a bit of bush bashing. And then finally we put orange tags on the trees to show where a track is, or plastic coloured tag. And so finally looking down, the tag was now on the other side of the river. Don't know how, so the track was on the other side, and it was a case of bashing through the bush to get down to the bottom of this hill. And the river wasn't too deep. It was probably thigh deep, it was flowing fairly well, but because a tree had come down, so managed to sort of jump across to this tree, and didn't even get wet boots. But yeah, so not lost, but just off track. But I use an app, a topographic app, and it's got all our New Zealand maps, topographic maps on it, and even with no cell phone coverage, you can still use it, and so you can see exactly where you are and work out, you can put waypoints in, and yeah, it's brilliant. You might know where you are. You might not know how to get out, but you know where you are. Some of the pastimes, if I'm staying home, I like to be quite creative, and so I love gardening, although my garden's a bit neglected now, but I've always had a really nice garden. I get a lot of satisfaction from that. If it's winter time, I might do other creative things like some sewing or some knitting in that way. Reading, I do read a lot. So all perfect hobbies for an introvert. Yeah, hobbies, I'll go for a bike ride, or I'll go for a local walk is what I'll do. Yeah, that's if I'm doing something on my own, or it's spending time with my family and friends. And I've got grown up sons, two boys with their 2 wives, so spending time with them and my extended family. To go tramping in Nepal, to walk in the Himalayas. I've been wanting to do that. When I lived in a squat in London 30 years ago, and some of my squat mates went to Nepal and they spent a month there, and that's when the idea first came to me. And it was just sort of put aside while I was bringing up a family and had a corporate career. But I actually booked just before 3 years ago, just before what's been going on in the world started. And I was actually, the flights, everything, accommodation was all sorted out for a 10-day trek in the Himalayas. And that's when New Zealand shut down just a couple of days before I was due to fly out. And I'm pretty certain I'm going to do that next year in April. There's quite distinct seasons, as you can imagine. So it's April and October. Yeah, I can't wait to do that. Oh, I've got lots of plans. It's continuing to grow the channel, because as the channel grows, the more people that know about it, that message that I want to get out to people, the better. So that's why I'm on, focusing on growth. And when I can with YouTube, I will open it up for membership, which I'm not at that tier yet. I'll do that so I can just grow a stronger community, and perhaps the people who become part of that membership can support each other, and together we'll all benefit from it. It will remain an outdoor camping, tramping, doing dumb stuff in dumb weather channel. Just to get the message out to more people. It's so important. There's so much trouble in the world. When I look around, and even in my own immediate community, seeing the younger generations, the millennials and whatnot, the amount of stress they're under, they feel they're under, and the anxiety they have. And I think if we can simply get more people spending more time in nature, that's going to help them. I know it will help, because it helps me, and by being part of Solo the series, it's just increasing that audience, that message getting out there. We're all doing it together. That's why. That scene in my one where I'm walking through the river, that was one of my first solo trips since being an adult, and it was really gnarly, because I wanted to go back where I'd first had the idea, but because of storms I couldn't get in there. So this was nearby and very pretty, and the forecast was really, really bad. It was a 3-day loop, and on the one day, because you had to go through the river, I thought I'll do that first before the water gets too high. Get that. It meant But that river I was going through, I crossed it 100 times because I passed some girls and they had counted. And so your feet are just wet the whole way. But yeah, so beautiful. But it was that night, I was camped in the forest and absolutely freezing. It got down to nearly 0 degrees. And my tiny tent is very, very lightweight. And I couldn't sleep. I was just so cold and had all my clothes on. I even had my jacket and my rain pants. And I was at that point thinking, should I get up and jog on the spot or something? I was so cold. And I was lying there just thinking about what an idiot I was, laughing. But then a kiwi bird started calling over in the bush. And then its mate started calling. And I was probably in the middle of their track. And you never hear kiwi. It's so rare. And it was just such a wonderful, wonderful moment, just hearing these. And I was lying there just with a grin from ear to ear, freezing cold, as uncomfortable as can be. And I couldn't have been happier. It was just, yeah. So that's that river one. That's what, yeah, how that day ended. Yeah, so I've since got a new sleeping bag. So if someone is thinking about going out camping solo for the first time, making sure they've got the equipment that they're going to need. So the 4 main things being a tent, some kind of shelter, a tent or a tarp, a pack of some kind to carry their gear, their sleeping system, which is going to be the sleeping bag, and some kind of a mat. And I think if someone is unsure of it, it can be good to, once they've got their gear or they've borrowed their gear, even to camp at home in the backyard, or if they don't have a garden themselves, or they can camp at a friend's place, just get used to being outside and only using the stuff that they would take. If that has to be their first step to get used to it all, and then they can progress from doing that, then perhaps going to a more commercial type camping ground that there might be people there might be a lot of families there, but again, that gives them a bit of a, they might drive there, but again, still only using the stuff they'd go backpacking with. And just do it in little steps like that when they feel comfortable to go out into somewhere more remote. It could be if they drive, if they've got a car and are able to drive or get transport, and they might just walk for 1 mile from where their car is and camp there. And it's just taking those little baby steps, little bit by little bit, and each time getting more confidence. So really making sure they've got the gear, getting familiar with putting the gear up before going out. So putting the tent up in the backyard, or if need be, I've put my tent up in my lounge room because I got a new tent and it was winter and pouring down, so I couldn't wait. I put it up and just getting familiar with that to give them confidence. Getting used to sleeping on the mat. Again, that can be done at home. Just taking those little wee steps, and there's so much information available online now, and a lot of these campsites you go onto, there's plenty of different apps wherever you are in the world. You can find photos of the campsite if you're going to a campsite. So, and they're photos from maybe the operators, the commercial operators, or it can be other people, other campers have put photos, and you can get a really good idea. Is it a grassy area? Is it a treed area? And so before you even get there, you can get a lot of information about what might be ahead. I think it can be good to pre-plan taking something or what you're going to do once you've got to your camp and you're set up. And that could be, sometimes I experiment with different food that might take a little bit longer to cook and just see what is practical. I also download books onto my device, so I can read a book or have an audio book. I know that there's people who have other projects and hobbies that they could bring with them, like some artwork if they want to do some drawing, or some journaling if they want to be writing in a journal. And wherever I go, if I'm staying there for a couple of nights, I'll always have an explore where I am, just do little trips out. I don't get into much bushcrafting as such. We can't have fires. There's hardly anywhere in New Zealand you can have a fire now, unfortunately. So I miss that whole scene. Could when we were kids anywhere, but yeah. And I don't hunt. Happy to eat it, but I don't. I mean, because you can be somewhere where you could go fishing, or where I was 2 weeks ago, there was a wild stag about 4 meters from the tent, and it's the season of the roar here for the stags, and you could hear it. It was like click click click, and they rub their antlers on the trees to get the velvet, and he was really close, and he had a couple of this was during the night. I was just lying there in the tent listening to this noise, and then there's this, they're gone. They must have got scent of me, and they were gone. But yeah, I don't hunt. Only shoot photos.